Project Veritas have recently been raided by the feds because this is an aspect of the continued politicization of the United States under the Biden regime. So this begins with the release of the alleged diary of Ashley Biden. Now, this was released by National File, a right-wing website that published the entire 112 pages of this. So I had a read of it. I read about 50, 60 pages of it. And it was written in 2019. It's 112 pages long. And it's got consistent consistent handwriting throughout while using different pens. And the handwriting's pretty unique. And so if it's a fake diary and it's the contribution of many different people, well, I would be surprised, frankly. It looks very particular and I'd recognize it in other contexts, and I'm no handwriting expert. But it seems to be the diary of a woman who has had a significant amount of emotional trauma in her life and is attempting to figure out what she even wants with her life. It maps out in the beginning where she is and where she wants to be in a year's time. It was written in 2019, so in a year's time, 2020, she wanted to...
How old is she?
She was 37, I think 38 when she wrote this. And she's 40 odd now. But she's painfully single and she's getting over a breakup with a chap called Kevin. And on page 9, she complains that she's 38, single, with no children and no clear path forward. And I'm just like, wow. Like, women, don't let that be you, I'm telling you. She meets other people's children, and then she longs for having children herself. I don't know whether it's wise to show the excerpts from the diary, to be honest. And she lists the good and the bad of her previous relationships, and she's attracted to a man called Kevin, who already has children and is emotionally distant. She calls him as emotionally immature as I am. She's very jealous and makes up visions of him spending time with other women, which she admits is irrational. She complains that he still loves his ex and calls herself an incredible catch. Halfway through the diary, she splits up with him, and then she finds out her estranged husband has found another woman, and she's furious about this. She's like, do I love my estranged husband? I don't know what's going on. She's struggling with her own emotions. Parts of it are very sexually charged, and on page 25 is the part where most the right-wing commentariat have seized on, because she says, I have always been boy crazy. I remember pulling up my skirt in second grade and showing the boys my underpants. Hypersexualized at a young age. What is this due to? Was I molested? I think so. I can't remember specifics, but I do remember trauma. I remember not liking the Woolsacks house, which is a family of some sort. I remember being somewhat sexualized with Caroline. I remember having sex with friends at a young age. Showers with my dad, probably not appropriate. Being turned on when I wasn't supposed to be, etc., etc. And so she doesn't level any accusations against Joe Biden.
Wait, is Joe Biden not her dad?
Yes.
Showers with my dad?
Yeah. But she doesn't say what age that she
Right.
was showering with him.
Right.
Right. So I don't know. Right.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, say anything that I can't validate. But this is the quote from it, and this is what's been seized upon, as you can see with the National Files headline there. But like the whole thing really, what I read, like the half I read, was an emotional roller coaster. But she's just trying to figure out, why she is as she is and what she wants. And there's quite a lot of table making. So she'll have pros and cons, and she'll list. And I mean, if this is a fraud, then whoever wrote it should probably just start writing novels, because it's quite a gripping read. It's like, okay, well, these problems seem like real human problems. She's engaged in real human relationships, and she's on this emotional roller coaster where she doesn't know how to get her life back on track. And it's like, okay, well, then write a book. You're going to sell a lot of copies. But we don't know how the National File got this, whether it's authentic or not, or anything like that. And that's why Project Veritas didn't publish it. So anyway, come November the 5th, the New York Times posted this article about how people tied to Project Veritas are being scrutinized in the theft of diary from Biden's daughter. So as they report, the Justice Department searched 2 locations associated with Project Veritas as a part of an investigation into how a diary stolen from President Biden's daughter Ashley came to be publicly disclosed a week and a half before the 2020 presidential election, according to people briefed on the matter. Well, that implies that the diary is valid. It is a real diary, that it's not fake. And to be honest with you, after reading half of it, I don't think it's fake. Like, it really feels...
Why would the Justice Department care enough to go raiding places?
If it wasn't in some way real, exactly. And after reading it, it seems real to me. federal agents in New York conducted court-ordered searches on Thursday, one in New York City and one in a suburban Westchester County, targeting people who had worked for the group and its leader, James O'Keefe. And so basically, what they are describing as scrutiny is literally the feds coming, banging on the doors and saying, right, let us in, we're searching the place and we're taking stuff. It's like, right, okay, why? Project Veritas didn't publish this diary. Why would you be doing this?
But also, it's just a diary.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but there's nothing in there that threatens Homeland Security. So what kind of justification is there for the federal government?
Great question.
Even if they had stolen it.
Yeah. So New York Times admit that Project Veritas didn't publish the diary, but dozens of handwritten pages from it were posted on a right-wing website. They don't even name National File in this. Like just a right-wing website. You don't need to know any more than that. Don't go looking for it. I had to go dig this up myself. So this was around the time when Trump was trying to undermine Biden's credibility by portraying Hunter Biden as engaging in corrupt business dealings, which he did. This was ignored by most of the media. To be honest with you, I didn't find the post that scandalous. I mean, they are like the only allegation against Biden in there is that he had a shower with her, but we don't know how old she was, and she says probably inappropriate. It's like, well, maybe. I mean,
the dude is
like if she's 15, yes, that's obviously inappropriate. But if she's 7, that's not like the same thing. So I don't know. But she doesn't accuse Biden of molesting her, although she does claim that she had some sort of trauma as a child. The website said it obtained the diary from a whistleblower who worked for a media organization that refused to publish a story about it before the election. It claimed to know where the actual diary is located and what the whistleblower said in an audio recording of Ashley Biden admitting it was hers. But again, we don't know who these people are, and I haven't seen it or heard it, so I don't want to commit to anything there. But the Trump administration's Justice Department, which was then under Barr, opened an investigation into the matter shortly after a representative of the Biden family reported to federal authorities that several of her items were stolen in a burglary. And this is where this has all come from, and so Project Veritas are the ones in trouble by this. An FBI spokesman in New York said they wouldn't comment on the investigation, only saying that they performed law enforcement activity related to an ongoing investigation. What, raiding journalists?
That's a yes as well.
Yeah, exactly. A, that's a yes. But B, raiding journalists? Is that just law enforcement activity? Don't know. But this is...
I think we're talking about this like it's the jewels of the nation or something, right? Like, it's a book with some confessions in about someone's
it's a diary.
Opinions.
Yeah.
Like, it's not...
It's how Ashley Biden feels. And honestly, it feels like a teenage girl's diary.
Yeah.
Like, it's written in that kind of style where it's just very emotive. And she's just talking about her personal problems most of the time.
It's not the launch codes.
No, it's not. It's not that important. So a more fair representation of this was the New York Post, raided by the feds, which I think is a more accurate description of what's going on there. They don't give us any new information on that, so we'll just move over to the Project Veritas video. So Project Veritas released a video about this the other day, if we can give the next one, where James O'Keefe is, and I think rightly, upset by the way that they've been treated by a government institution. Because I do think this is, and he implies, and in fact directly states, this is a part of the continued politicization of the institutions of the United States along partisan lines, and I think he's right. So the Justice Department, even when they subpoenaed them, they asked them not to disclose that they'd been subpoenaed. Why? What are you ashamed of? Why don't you want the public knowing that you're going after Project Veritas, Department of Justice? I think that's a fair question. But anyway, he says that within an hour of the FBI raid on Spencer Mead's apartment, Spencer Mead being one of the journalists at Project Veritas, the New York Times contacted them for comment. So an hour after it happened, the New York Times ring up and say, hey, have you got a comment on this? Sorry, how do you know that happened?
This is very typical in England. What happens is the cops just ring up the media and tell them that this is going to happen.
Yes.
And then it happens, and then the media are there at the doorstep with the cops.
Yes.
So,
and that seems to have been what happened here, because this was a secret investigation. So how else would the New York Times have been aware of it? O'Keefe points out that his organization had acted properly and ethically by refusing to publish the diary because they couldn't verify it. You know, like journalists should. You need two sources, apparently. You know, and if you can't verify a thing, you don't publish it. Unlike the PIS dossier, BuzzFeed. So they couldn't confirm whether the diary was real, whether it belonged to Ashley Biden, or the events in there were real, so they didn't do anything with it. In fact, they attempted to give the diary to Biden's attorneys, Ashley Biden's attorneys, who refused to authenticate it and wouldn't take it. So they attempted to give it to law enforcement and did not publish it. So they just gave it to the cops.
See, this is what makes me think, because the thing there is that, well, they've already got it back,
Yeah.
right? So,
What
and
are
the
you
fact
doing?
that it's a bloody diary is not really that important anyway. Makes
It's
me
been
think,
on the internet for over a year.
exactly. So Project Veritas almost certainly actually just investigating something else that is going to embarrass the Biden administration,
Well, it's possible.
and therefore, oh, we'll do a raid over that diary thing.
It's possible, but I can't say
That's
I've
my
got...
speculation.
Yeah,
I
that-
don't know why else they'd waste so much time on such a thing
Well, again, it could be about intimidating political opposition, frankly.
if they are that petty. Sure.
Yeah, and well, I do believe they are that petty.
Certainly could happen.
But anyway, yeah. So obviously, James O'Keefe said that Project Veritas did nothing wrong, and he seems to be correct. If anything, I'm actually surprised that there's any outlet with any kind of integrity to, verify things, double check them, not publish something if they can't prove that they're real. I mean, I'm actually quite impressed, to be honest. But he finishes by characterizing this as Biden's Department of Justice attacking American journalism as further evidence of the deep partisanship of the current political environment. And, well, he's not really wrong, is he? Because there seems to be quite a lot of evidence of the deep partisanship and politicization of American institutions. Like back in May this year, Epoch Times published a very long and quite comprehensive article about how Biden is politicizing the Department of Justice. What he has done in this is, as reported, is put Brookings Institute alumni, so Brookings Institute being a left-wing think tank, a chap called Hennessy and Brookings contributor Monaco, both of whom are deeply entangled in promoting the Russia collusion hoax, have now both got enormously influential positions in the Department of Justice. So Russiagate conspiracy theorists and partisans are deeply influential in the Department of Justice. It's a fine example, frankly. And the Federalist thinks that the politicization of these institutions goes back at least to Obama, where you may remember that the FBI used political opposition research paid for by the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign to get a secret court warrant to spy on a Trump campaign member. You remember that there was a bug at Trump Tower?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, seems to be openly politicized. It also showed the FBI omitted vital information in its warrant to request to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, the FISA court. Namely, the FBI kept asking for warrant renewals without telling the court the FBI itself had dismissed Christopher Steele, who generated the opposition research, for lying to the FBI and leaking his relationship with the agency to the press. Both are not only unethical, but likely illegal. But of course, nothing's going to happen because of the political nature of the people involved. Steele being the person who put together the PIS dossier, which of course turned out to be absolutely nothing. In fact, when checked, Trump wasn't anywhere near Russia when he was supposed to have been, and things like that. No proof that
literal fake news.
Yeah, no proof that he pissed on a bed or whatever that Obama had been in.
I believe the allegation was he got prostitutes to piss on the bed.
Oh, sorry,
Obama
that was
had been
right.
in.
Yeah, that's right.
It was
Yeah.
not real.
Literal fake news, obviously a lie. There was no evidence of Russia collusion, and these people are deeply influential in America's institutions. The next one I found was an interesting accusation from a foreign think tank called the school. I can't pronounce it. Sorry, some guy's School of International Studies. It's from Singapore. But one thing that they pointed out in this is that they say, quote, by recycling retired FSOs into government as Schedule Cs, the Democrats are not doing career foreign service professionals any favors. And so they give a bunch of examples where basically people who are Democrat partisans are being put in influential positions, and this is weakening the efficacy of the institutions by party loyalty over merit. Where have you seen this before? Every socialist country ever. Such behavior, they say, plays into long-standing Republican accusations that career foreign service is de facto a partisan institution, an optic that makes it harder for State Department to do its job even during normal Republican administrations. And it seems that these are accusations with merit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If they're actually doing it, the Republicans are saying, hey, you're politicizing this institution. Well, yeah. And the Democrats don't seem to care. Another example of this is Joe Biden's attack on the military. And the reason I think that the military got absolutely trounced recently because they're just going down the drain. But Biden has been claiming that the military is rife with white supremacy when he first came in this year. And this is a chap called Kash Patel who doesn't agree. He's not white. doubt he's a white supremacist, but he's...
But he is part of a socio-economic group that's at the higher echelons of American society and therefore upholding the system of white supremacy.
He was part of the Trump administration.
You got him.
Yeah.
Therefore.
In my 2 tools at the Department of Defense, white supremacy is not rampant throughout the Department of Defense. That is outrageous and offensive. This is the continued politicization of the Defense Department at the expense of our national security. Well, I believe it, to be honest. And I think this is best seen in the treatment of the January 6th rioters. Like, the things they did were not as extreme as is being claimed.
I was going to say it would come from the leaks you get out of the military these days, or just their open advertisements.
Well, yeah, obviously, but the whole institutions, the sort of governing institutions of the United States, do appear to be deliberately politicized by the Democrats. Marjorie Taylor Greene met with several people who were arrested for allegedly taking part in the riots, describing them as political prisoners who are being kept in deplorable conditions. I agree with this. I think this is correct. The prisoners have been denied bail and forced to stay in horrible conditions. They've been in these terrible conditions, broken toilets where they can't use, there's mold on the wall. Imagine on misdemeanor charges being treated this way. We're seeing high crime and we're seeing people live in god-awful conditions that should not exist. And I think that that's true. I think this is being done deliberately. I think they're being used as an example, frankly, by the Biden administration to essentially say, don't step out of line because we will weaponize the force of the state against you. Even though, what did they even do?
Well,
Moved a few things around.
They're not being charged with treason, is my understanding.
No.
A bunch of people in there are being charged with petty misdemeanors.
Yes.
And therefore they're being treated like Gitmo prisoners.
And they've been held for like 10 months as if they are in Gitmo. And this is totally unfair. But why? Because they're right-wing, and it's being done by left-wingers. We actually have a premium podcast about exactly what has happened to the January 6th rioters done by Harry the other day that will be coming out later this week. So you can find out about that on lotus.com, because honestly, it's awful the way these people have been treated. And I don't want to talk about it on YouTube because, I mean, who knows what they're going to do? Who knows what their editorial policy will be tomorrow? Thanks for watching this clip from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters. We broadcast live on lotuseaters.com at 1 p.m. UK time every weekday. And we also have loads more content that we don't put on YouTube, such as the memes and video comments from our community. Every week we also have new episodes of our regular series, Contemplations and Epochs. In Contemplations, Josh explores interesting and diverse topics, such as the science behind the need for fathers in the home, or why people believe in ghosts and the paranormal. In Epochs, Bo and I go on, often at length, about various events and periods in history that are particularly fascinating. We've just finished a 5-part mini-series on the 100 Years' War, which I particularly enjoyed right up until the end of it when, spoiler alert, the French won. Alongside our excellent team of in-house writers, we also commission articles from outside contributors, and silver and gold tier subscribers have access to an audio recording of each premium article, so you don't have to read it yourself. We interview various contemporary thinkers and entertainers, as well as host the recordings of our live events. We also have a series of premium video content on the site, which we think is particularly worthwhile, or we simply can't put on YouTube because their editorial policies prohibit reasonable discussion on the subject. Personally, I think the deep dives we've been doing into critical theory and critical race theory are most important, as we reveal the origins of intersectionality and the plan that the radical left has for our societies. We are funded almost exclusively by our subscribers, so if you'd like to join us in the work we're doing, head over to lotuseaters.com and we'll see you there.